title for the day. We'll call this meeting to order. Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
At this time, we'll go for public comments. Everybody's limited to about 5 minutes if there's anybody that would like to speak from the public. All right, coming forward. We want to welcome our new board member, Dina Marsh. Welcome. And you are from?
Northern Spice Company, downtown Manistee.
Great. And you're fairly new on River Street. About a year?
About a year, a little over a year.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very
Very happy.
spices.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome. We're glad that you joined us. It's nice to get a great variety of people on this board. Everybody got their copy of the September 1st work session. Do I have an approval of those minutes?
I'll make the motion.
All right, a second? Thank you. And then
We need a voice vote for those, the motions. All in favor?
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, pass. Thank you, keep me on track. Approval of the minutes from September 8th, our regular meeting. Do I have an approval for those minutes? I'll make the motion. Anybody want to second it?
I'll support that.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. We will have an update on the Sleigh Bell weekend. Julia Cook is here to provide us the update.
And if everybody could speak up just a little bit louder today, we did have a caller from the public that has been trying to watch the video, and we're not projecting as well. So just as a note, please.
Well, I'm Julia Cook, if you don't know who I am. Most of you do. I've taken over the Sleigh Bell as chairman 2 months ago. And it's been a work in progress, so it's building this whole thing almost from the ground level up because, well, we didn't have one last year, so there's no notes, there's nothing to really go by, so history is kind of old. So I'm happy to say that we are on track. We have funds of, at the moment,
We have about $18,000 committed in sponsorship, and we have $12,750 received in cash so far.
and also there's some more feelers out there that should be coming in hopefully this week, because I worked on that all day yesterday. Getting some people don't want to take my phone calls. But we are happy to say that we have events rolling in. There's more and more all the time. The parade is building because they had to wait for city approval, so we got that last week. Some people didn't want to commit till then. We have a couple things with the parade that is kind of exciting, and we're adding layers to it to make it more family friendly. And I met till 10 o'clock last night on that. It's really cool. So Ben Henge's in charge of that. So if you know him, it's going to be pretty amazing. We are not doing printed flyers this year. It's $2,000. I couldn't swallow that price, so we figured in this day and age, we're going high tech. We are now, it's a website. You go to the website. There's also going to be a QR code that you can do. We're going to get that to all the merchants downtown to place in their windows so they can walk by and scan it. We're going to do, what are they called, tabletop?
Table
trees.
trees.
Table trees. Will be at the restaurants. The restaurants are also involved, the restaurants and the clubs. We have a tab on the website so that River Street is not pounded with 10,000 people trying to eat at 4 restaurants. And that was the biggest, I've taken a lot of complaints over the 10 years that I've been working on this, is you have a family of 4, 2 of the children, you have to wait 2 hours to get into, let's say, TJ's. You can go now to the QR code and it will direct you to the Bungalow or Rosie's or somewhere else that is going to be open But that's gonna be their website that it goes to, and that will tell you where they are, who they are, what they've got, which will alleviate some of the issues downtown. We wanna keep them downtown, but we've gotta be realistic. I mean, you have to feed these people, and you can't feed them on 3 to 4 restaurants. We have the QR code to tell you where to go on River Street, what's at River Street, what business is there, what event's happening. We have a new event happening on Friday afternoon, mid-afternoon. We're not doing the soup cook-off. We went for hide a sleigh, and you find the sleigh, and you win a prize, and you get to keep the ornament that you're looking for. There'll probably be 10 of them, so we want 10 merchants to be involved in that. We are also not doing the warming tent due to the fact that it costs a lot of money, and it's COVID, and we didn't want to commit to that, not knowing what the future is, even from now till Sleigh Bell. So we're kind of keeping our options open. So what we'd like to do, since we applied to the city to close Oak Street, is put in food trucks. So we're working on that, which would also keep the people downtown. It is a downtown event, but in essence, it's a huge event. And we have a lot of people that we have to accommodate and put through, and we want them to have a great experience. Not, we were down there, it was too busy, it was too congested, or there wasn't enough merchants involved or whatever. If there is a merchant, we are kind of going door to door in a week or two. What can we do to help you? What do you need? Because not everybody knows what Sleigh Bell is or what it's about. Deanna was new to the circuit because she's only been there a year. We went in there and we talked, and it was oatmeal, now I heard it's something else. So
Right.
we're trying to help, because there's a few people that have not been there, like Ryan at the GameStop. He, like, what is this and what do I do? We can't assume everybody knows what it is. Any questions?
The only question I wrote down was, are we inviting food trucks? But you covered that.
Yeah.
That was great to hear that.
We hope to get to you. We always do have the hot dog man. It's his business, but I don't know how he's gonna do it, because he didn't understand it. I had a brief meeting with him, and I think Christina's talked to him. He doesn't understand the magnitude, which, if you've never been to Sleigh Bell, it's a unique event. So he said, well, I can do this. You're a one-man little cart, and there's hordes of people, so.
Julie, just a question on food. So, for Sunday morning, have you reached out to one of the clubs, or you may have already, for a pancake breakfast to help feed these people with Blue Water's gone and breakfast places are so minimal?
That is a good question, because breakfast is very difficult. We may throw that out there, because some of the clubs didn't know what to do. And I know the restaurants like TJ's and stuff like that, by Sunday, they're exhausted, because this thing does kick off on Thursday. And Thursday's their big night, Thursday's the night, Friday and Saturday. So to ask a restaurant, hey, you wanna stay open for Sunday too, with staffing, it's difficult. So, and that is a good question, we'll work on that.
Will the platforms and seating still be out during the break, or like TJ's, talk about it, goodies?
I don't believe so. Julie didn't know the answer to that one.
Okay.
The discussion was before with the Department of Public Works that those were supposed to be picked up on November 1st. I guess if this board wants something different, we should probably discuss it, but I know it's going to be hard once the snow falls to get those up, and the owners are responsible for removal. So that was kind of, I did send out a message to the 3 of them just asking, were they planning on using cold storage this year? Were they doing it themselves? I only heard back from one, and they were going to dismantle and then move it into their own area for storage.
I know that TJ's had the bubbles, they did the bubbles last winter. They obviously aren't planning on doing that again.
I haven't heard anything. Julie, do you know
I
anything on TJ's?
think they are going to, but it's after Sleigh Bell,
Okay,
because of the parade and everything, they can't have those out there.
all right.
I know someone did ask about bleacher seating, and we talked about that.
Bleacher, yeah.
I think we talked about that yesterday. We don't know where we could put bleachers. Downtown Delights has already got something planned for their parking lot, somebody mentioned that. I think they have something planned for their parking lot. And it's already congested with all these people down at that end. So to see the parade and the bleachers and everything, I don't think we'll be having those either.
And the only place really that would fit would be in the roads, crossroads. That's a lot.
And we didn't request that, so.
We have asked because of that.
That would be a major.
Well, and depending on snowfall, I don't know that we could get it into like the marina area, because I was thinking, well, the sidewalk's a little wider there, but I don't have the measurement of the bleachers that we have. But by the tree lighting, but you still got to get all the horses through, you still got to get the tree through, so you really can't block the road. And I don't know where your vantage point would be, so if anyone has a brilliant idea, please let us know. We're all
We
ears.
just learned from August 13th, I think it was, this kickoff, was all the details that go into this. It's not the events, it's not the parade, it is not the flyer, it is not the fireworks, it's the safety, it's, getting the police involved, getting where to put the horses. There's so many layers to this that I've learned that I can't even tell you everything, because every day something else. Well, did you find a place to put the horses? What horses? What are you
Yesterday
talking about?
Where's the dancer in the window? What dancer in the window?
I mean, it's just every day I get hit with something, and fortunately, I've had Josh Blast as far as the safety and the horses and stuff. He's been amazing that, he'll go, did you find a place for the horses? What horses? Where am I going? Stay off 31. Now I've got to find safety for Santa Claus because I lost him 2 years ago. I mean, it's been one thing. I didn't know they lost Santa. I knew I was down there because I'm usually the ambassador down at that end, but there's just so many little crooks and crannies and secrets that we've been pulling out, and we laugh because what else can you do? Now I've got to find security for Santa and make sure that he doesn't get lost going down 31 because this woman doesn't know where division is. She's done it for 7-8 years. So, and then everything is sold different because where we had the horses before is now tribal land. So now we have to go to them and ask them, can we put your horse, put our horses there? No problem. So the thing we do have to look out for Sleigh Bell is when construction starts down at House of Flavors, that's going to change this whole event and the whole procedure. So next year, we've already talked about, if I'm chairman, when I live through this, if I'm chairman, we have to start looking at new avenues. Because right now it's pretty easy, but it's going to change the whole venue of a lot of things down River Street once that starts. So that would probably be another committee as to where we do parades and where we do huge events like this. Any other
Julia, it sounds like you're doing a fabulous job. I know you're picking up and putting it together as you go, but it is so appreciate what you're doing.
Well, my partner over there, and Sarah Herberger cheers me on because I still do stuff at the Vogue, and I walk in and I go, I don't even know what I'm doing right now, which event am I working on? So thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. Any questions? Great, thank you very much. We can move on to the approval of financials for September 21st, or September 2021. I'm stuck in September, obviously. So city service agreement, 3% increase. It goes from $228 a quarter to $900.
No, it's either 228 a quarter or 912 additional for the year, so a year. Yeah, we got our first bill for the first quarter, and that's written in every year, the 3% increase, as we move forward if we are continuing this contract.
Questions? Concerns? I'm concerned. I have some concerns about an increase based on, I was part of that contract negotiation, and kind of that's a standard agreement. Everybody writes in their cost of living increases every year, so I get that. However, I still don't feel that we have determined that the services are adequate to our needs. So I am, asking and talking about does this contract continue? I think we have a 90-day out.
180-day written notice.
180 out. Just, again, these are my opinions and my thoughts. You know, I know that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours being put in by our volunteers. We all walked the Riverwalk and talked about issues on the Riverwalk especially. I'm also very concerned about the downtown and the risks that are out there with the poor sidewalks, crosswalks, and everything else. But one of the things that has been concerning to me when we walked the Riverwalk was a discussion about the poor, what would be the word? Not safety, but the sustaining of the Riverwalk, because when it was built, there was nothing put behind the Riverwalk. And so now we've got years of erosion that occurs, and you can see when you walk the Riverwalk that it's tilting because it's eroding. So those kind of major issues, structural, that's the word I was looking for, those major structural issues, we heard a lot of conversation, but I didn't hear any plans. So, you know, when we talk about the service agreement, there was a lot of discussion in putting it together about what maintenance. I truly, I'm not kidding you, we must have spent 2 hours on the word maintenance to make sure that we had it just right. Very smiling because he was there. And so I still don't feel it meets the definition we need. It's still unclear about city property. If we improve it, if we add to it, if we put things out, it becomes city property. So where's the city responsibility? You know, and I'm not saying that the DDA is trying to walk away from anything. We have been, I think, very clear about we want to do a collaboration. You know, I think sometimes things were added and then just turned over to the city, and I think the city kind of, and I'm not talking for the city, it's my impression that, you know, it's just like, it keeps piling on, and the city's like, okay, you know, yeah, we have to take on more responsibility and more responsibility, and so I think that a little bit better conversations, which we're doing now, help when we're kind of planning for what we're going to add, because in adding anything, we have to remember that we're adding a cost, a sustainability cost. So, you know, we want to be very planful and very frugal in regards to what we're looking at as we talk about the bond, so that we don't also put a burden on the city for maintenance. So we're trying to do this very delicate balance. We have contracted private providers before. I was not on the board at the time. I hear stories about it. It wasn't what they liked. It didn't seem to work well for them. But again, I don't know what was the follow-up. Who was walking through? Who was checking on it? Who was looking for the outcomes? You know, and it's the same with the DPW at this time. I hear repeatedly that they have limited resources. And that's why our volunteers are putting in so many hours. So that's a big conversation on this contract. And I don't think we have to make a decision right now, but I really would like people to kind of ponder the thought, do we, by the first year, go with this contract? Does the DPW have the ability to meet our needs? And the second piece of that would be, and what are our needs? There'll be expectations. This contract does not have outcome expectations. I want to know what the person's doing. If I had a private business, I'd be telling you I spent 4 hours here, 6 hours there. I mean, it'd be detailed. We don't have any of that, not in this contract. So, anybody have any thoughts on that? I can run on
I have
and
a thought. Being so new to this might have already been discussed, so just correct me or fill me in if it has. Okay. when you put in a project like the Riverwalk 20-some years ago, when you put in a project that big, somebody is responsible for looking into the future. How are we gonna maintain this? What are going to, and what funds would that come from? I mean, it just doesn't end after 20 years and then the Riverwalk's not there anymore. So where were those funds allocated to? Where have they gone? The Riverwalk should be a reoccurring, not a new occurring cost to the city.
100% right. I think, and I'm just gonna, Barry would know the actual money amounts better than I would, but I think there was a couple $100,000 that went with that, when that project 20-some years ago.
I think it was 100,000.
$100,000?
Yes. So the DDA financed that as part of the bond measure, as one of the big projects. And then in addition to the construction costs, there was another $100,000 that was put basically in an account with the city, turned over to the city for future maintenance. And, I'll say from, the perspective, I think, of what has been handed down through the ages as to, what happened 25 years ago, is that the expectation is city were building this and we're seeding funds to maintain it, but now the expectation is it's the city's asset and that should be managed like any other asset of the city. And I think the clarity of that handoff was never put on paper, and I think to this day, those are the types of things that the contract that Karen is talking about attempted to bring consolidation on, because this argument has been going on for 15 years at least. And this agreement is the closest the sides have ever gotten. So it was monumental in that regards. But it was one of those agreements where no one walked away feeling happy about it, because everyone had to give up a lot of what they wanted. But I think that's the reality is that there needs to be this consensus built of the sides that have been historically far apart coming together.
Gary, you put that out there a lot more eloquently than I could. In $100,000 back 20-some years ago was a good amount of money. But sustainability, it's like, again, here's your asset now, take care of it. And it's like, well, that's a pretty big asset. So, the thing that I keep asking at these meetings is, where is your project plan?
I will say that Jeff did go and ask Spicer to get an asset management plan for the Riverwalk. Because you're right, certain times maybe we have to add tiebacks to add some, because of the erosion and things like that. And these things do age, and there's different timelines for replacements and things like that. So getting all that information is important to have a plan. So I'll keep you posted when we get that proposal from Spicer, but what comes out of that is going to be a maintenance plan.
Great. We've been, very interested. I know that's been coming for a while now. As we move closer to a bond and asking people, what needs to be done downtown, it's going to be important to have that because, what do we need to help with shearing up the Riverwalk, or do we need to fix the sidewalks? I mean, there's could be some major decisions that we're going to have to do in this bond proposal. And this piece, and that's why I keep pushing it every meeting, is that this piece needs to be developed and put forward so that we can start planning. Where can we help? What should we take care of? All those type of things I know we want some things. There's some things in the MSU study that we're looking at. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at that. It's a nice design, but can we do it, or do we have something else that has to be taken care of?
And there might be other funding sources for the Riverwalk, and we do put in track jacking and stuff like that. So I think keeping that in mind too, that maybe there's other funding sources that as opposed to the streetscape and the sidewalk. So
Excellent. And also to the little park on Veterans side is in my radar too all the time, so you'll have to bring up
that's
that.
it. Yeah, that one is where they did submit a trust fund grant for that last year. They scored it. We're hoping to get more points this year with the conversion we're doing, having that all completed for the Panos property, making sure they can do their deck. That all has to be completed, so we don't have to lose 50 points on that grant application. It has to be completed before October 1st. So it's a lot of steps to that conversion, but we'll be working on that.
You come in the door and hit the floor running, huh? All right, great. Is there any questions? I guess we're stuck in a 3% increase, which we didn't really count on, but, you know, we have it. And when Kyle returns, we have a discussion about where we go with the contract and what are some alternatives. Does that sound reasonable? Anybody have any other thoughts? I just don't want to spring this on Kyle. Alright. So, 2019 Spark winter payment, $5,000.
Yes, so first on the city service agreement, just know, sorry, being new, I did not take in the 3% into our budget, so we will be probably amending the budget, and then adding that 3% for moving forward on that. So just to be transparent and let you guys know. Sorry.
Well, we probably would have missed it too, so I'm sure.
We'll have it on the radar from here moving forward. The Spark winter payment. So the board was approached to, since I guess the Spark winter was done in January or February, then she moved along into March of 2020, and then COVID hit. And so it came to the board, I believe, to extend that in August of 2020 to move out the payment because she wasn't ready to move downtown because everything was shut down, and she has a painting business that people are going to actually need to go into to do. So what we need is $5,000 from the general fund to pay the 2019 winter. That we have $5,000 budgeted for Spark this year. We also have $5,000 of revenue that isn't being collected if we're going to move this into paying for the 19 winter. So that's what we're looking for. She has signed a lease in downtown at 338 River, which is just next to Clean Line Tattoos. The accountant was there, so Brandon Ball was where Clean Line was, and she would be right next to there for 1 year. And she has turned in all of her paperwork. If any of the board wants to review that, I do have that. I do have her business plan, her city registration, and everything that is required by Spark is in-house as of today. So that is where we're at with Spark. We have not heard from this, the new kind of Spark committee in moving forward at all this year on another event. So that's where this event is at.
But with this agreement, one of the things that jumped into our minds, you know, after again is maybe there should be some parameters on Spark. You know, what can you spend that money on? And, you know, we kind of said, yeah, to bring a business downtown, but then, like, what does that mean? Can I spend it on my lease? Can I redo a building? You know, whatever. I think it's to promote the ability for somebody to do their business or being their business downtown, but I think that sometimes we just need a little parameters. I mean, it's just an accounting issue to kind of just say, well, we gave them $5,000 and they left. You know, it's like, well, but what was it for? So we have to have some sort of understanding of what it should be. That's just a suggestion. This never having outcomes seems to be biting us repeatedly.
And she did, I did have Joanne write a letter to the board so that you did know the intended use of the money and the funds that we would be expending to her, so that hopefully that was helpful to you to know what her deals were moving forward. Other than that, there's nothing surprising on the financials. That's why I wanted to list those in case you guys wanted discussion on either of those items. They are both included in the unpaid bills report, unless someone would like to take them off. But the financials themselves, the report you received, I didn't see anything that was not in budget or that stood out on expense side.
So we have to have a motion for approval of the expenses. So we
First
have,
approve the financials, Karen.
oh,
The overall financial report from Richards and McDougall. Which was this one. And then we can do the unpaid bills separately.
all right, so do I have a motion to accept the financial reports from Richards and McDougall that was submitted to everyone? I'll second it. I always love what we're doing, and then you see the financials, you go, boy, it's a lean.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Yeah. Anybody opposed? Great, thank you. We have a total on our expenses of $33,784.15. Do I have a motion to pay those expenses?
And I have been trying to write on each of yours, so you'll see what line items that they go into and if they're an event expense or just a standard.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, it really helps.
It is helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a,
Ask for a motion.
yes, I did.
I'll make that motion.
All right. I will second those. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
We can get those. Great, thank you. The state reimbursement, I just wanted to let you guys know, Ed Bradford had called to ask if we had received that yet. We have not, but that should be coming into our fund at some point. I'll keep you apprised when that gets the bank. It was TIF, PPT, TIF. Do you know anything about that?
I do not, I'm sorry.
Okay, he did not give me a description on that, but I did ask, so I'm just waiting for that. I don't know if it was part of PPP forgiveness or something of that nature, or if there was a reimbursement to cities.
I don't know whether I'm misinterpreting a double negative, but I don't know whether this is good news or bad news.
It's good news. It will come into our account.
Okay.
It should be on its way. The check is in the mail.
Hey, good.
Some merchant report, if you're okay with it. All right. Just wanted to let you guys know, I will attend the Michigan Downtown Association Statewide Conference in November, the 4th and the 5th. There's some great discussion topics along about facade grants and different things that could be very appealing to us with public art and things like that. So kind of excited to go there and talk to other DDA directors and see what these experts have to say and what's worked in other communities to bring some new ideas back. So letting you know on that one. We're still progressing on the audit. So there's still quite a few details out yet, but we'll just continue to work forward. We have till December 31st to complete that. The Ramsdale Regional Center for the Arts banners are up at both ends. If you haven't noticed the Nutcracker banners, DPW did get those put up last week. So they were a nice addition to downtown. We're working on closing out hops and props still. We're actually, when you do hops and props, you pay all the vendors up front. And then anything that isn't sold at the event, then you get credit for. We're waiting for those credits and final bills to come in. It's looking like that event would be over $20,000 in profit, depending if there's any additional invoicing, which I'm not expecting too much more. So great event in downtown. Ladies and men's night have been determined for downtown, as ladies' night will be December 8th from 4 to 8. Men's night will be December 5th or 15th from 5 to 8. Facebook events have both been created on the downtown Manistee site, and I've tagged all of the merchants that you possibly find a Facebook page for on both of those events. So, and we'll be talking about it at the next merchant meeting, which is next week, Tuesday. Just like to keep you guys up to date on what's going on with those. In the process of getting website quotes, we have one from Manistee Media for around $1,050. So we're going to talk to Brandon Jensen at Right Side Design and also find one more to see to get our website just better, more usable. It just has a lot of clunky features, and I'd like to be a little more streamlined and easy for the public to use. Maybe have a video with downtown Manistee instead of those static type photos.
Christine, is part of the RFP for that to redo the templates, make them consistent with the Rising Tide rebranding?
We certainly could.
Please,
Yes.
please, I mean, everything that comes from the DDA should be compliant with the new guidelines for the Rising Tide rebranding.
Bruce, and I know you've mentioned that before.
You know, I'm not, that's a good point, Bruce. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a logo. Oh, yeah, there it is.
And that was an interesting discussion I had with Brandon Jensen about that. That was just a placeholder logo, and it has come to fruition as a main logo. So maybe in the future, that's something we could work on. I'm not sure that we have it this year, but maybe in our advertising budget next year.
I thought they had done it as a part.
I think there is something in the Rising Tide.
They had a sheet of examples.
I'll pull that for the next meeting.
And I thought that the DDA was one of the ones that they did.
I think that way back when we were meeting in person up at the city building, we did review those, and I thought we picked one.
Yeah.
I will either look back on the notes or minutes, and then I'll also pull the Rising Tide packet and we can put it in the board packet for next month. And just a quick note on Garland, that will be downtown for Christmas. It has gone up a little bit. I don't have that, I mean, I know it's 95 cents a square foot. I think maybe we paid 75 cents, so we're probably talking 20 cents a square foot for downtown. But I did talk to Lutz about offering that to all of the downtown merchants at this DDA cost. So if they wanted to decorate their storefronts, then we could just get it all at one place. It would all match. I sent a note over to Xavier at the Ramsdale because I know they do their polls. And so hopefully that will be a nice add-in for the merchants to make it easier for them, and then the lots will build up directly. So I will have final costs next month. Here's what we ordered last time, here's what we ordered this time. It is not on those yet, but just expect labor. He said labor and material are higher, which is what we're seeing everywhere. On to the merchant report. At the last meeting, the merchants were very interested in Booze, Brats, and Brews on October 30th. That is happening downtown. The Elks has taken over that event, and so try to connect the events with the merchants by putting it on the River Street Business Owners page, and the Elks does have an event, so I think everybody's pretty tied in, and it looks like everybody's excited for that to happen. The other issue that did come up to explore is merchants are still really upset about parking. That owners are parking, staff is parking, and they would like to discuss parking meters in downtown. So Lee Trucks, Deanna Marsh, and Shelley Doyen were three that were expressed interest that wanted to meet outside of the merchant group, maybe to bring the DDA or the city some information on that, and maybe later they can update us on all of that. So just letting you know that topic is coming up quite regularly. And I don't think they're talking about old-fashioned meters on every parking space, maybe something like Traverse City where you can go do it on your phone, or one meter where you go and pick a parking space or something like that in this century.
I've had conversations with different groups and different communities, because that is a source of revenue. So when you removed it, we removed it, I think in the 80s, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, it's a major source of revenue. Lee, yes?
Could I be in order to
Yes,
speak?
you could.
I'm Lee Trucks, if you don't know me. I was on the DDA for 18 years, and I resigned for several reasons, but one of them was because I thought that we needed younger people who had fresher ideas, and it looks to me like we've achieved that goal, so, and it's getting easier and easier as I get older to have younger people. But, I was inspired about, I don't know, whenever it was that Travis Alden came to Manistee and interviewed, that we had also interviewed a woman from Petoskey. And the woman from Petoskey mentioned that the city of Petoskey, I believe it was the DDA that got this revenue, made over $400,000 from the parking meters in downtown. And a lot of the things that you're talking about in terms of the maintenance of the sidewalks, the streets, the river walk, the other thing that would go a long ways towards solving that problem. The other thing is, I think some of us, you probably remember when we had parking meters in Manistee, and we also had a police officer whose beat was downtown to do the parking meters. And he was a wonderful ambassador, you know, who sort of went around and looked at people. He was present. I don't remember whether he was armed or not. Was he? I don't think Jake was ever armed, was he? I don't think he was. And it occurred to me that, you know, if we had that kind of revenue, the DDA could actually run the entire parking meter program and hire somebody who could perform that function of going around and making sure that the parking situation was working, and be the ambassador and walk in and out of stores and just sort of function as a downtown dignitary. The other thing I'd like to say about that, I guess, is that as I travel around the world and I chase my kids around a lot, you know, there are various places in the United States, every single place where they have a vibrant downtown, they have parking. Every single place. It's a valuable asset. If you think about every one of those spaces that's parking as a real estate, that's a certain amount of real estate that has a value. About 20 years ago, there used to be a house in the parking lot between Fowler Street and Clay Street. The DDA bought that house, knocked it down, and put up parking places. And I think there was about 9 or 10 parking places that were added to that parking lot. And that costs around $100,000. So that gives you some idea of what the value of that property is that we're giving away for free. You know, and I think the people that use it can help maintain it. Seems reasonable to me. Plus the fact that if merchants are afraid that people won't park there, I think they should just think that if somebody doesn't want to spend 50 cents or something to go into your store, they're probably not the customer you want anyway.
Some good points, Lee. Very
I
good.
think the customers who are nickel and dime places can go to Myers, or they can go to Walmart, and Manistee downtown is a place that's different than that.
Thank you. I think that one of the points that you make about, you know, even if we have employees and others parking on River Street, maybe keeping the back parking lots free parking would move them to park where they should be parking, and then just have our, you know, shoppers and customers using our River Street. I think that might go a long way to helping, because I'm not gonna pay for 8 hours if I'm working. You know, I'll go to the free parking lot.
I can tell you that for the 18 years that I was on the DDA, every year, the discussion was business owners parking on River Street,
Yeah.
perennial.
And it really
issue.
does hurt business. You know, the person that would park in front of our store or across the street, there's realtors parked on that block, there's business owners parked on that block, and who really wants to walk 2 blocks to buy some spices or go to the bookstore? It's frustrating,
Yeah.
and I'm very passionate about this, so thank you, Lee.
So let's put that on our, you know, let's keep an eye on this and have discussions on it, everybody think about it, and, you know, I think that we could, I know that, you know, this will be a big citizen thing. You know, people like their free parking on River Street. However, as other organizations, businesses, buy up real estate down there and open up, it does impact those that need those customers coming in, so.
I'd just point out, if we put in a parking system from this century, then we can give free parking to Manistee residents. You know, it's open up a Park Mobile account, and we would have control over who gets to park free and who doesn't. You know, we want there to be lots of people down there from lots of different places. And there's right now no way of capturing revenue for the public from people who are visiting from out of town. And this provides us a way to do that. So it can be metered. So, you know, if we can afford, if we want to give free parking to residents, we can set the accounts up that way or not.
Can I also say too, thinking, about the West Shore building and many students coming downtown to take classes, they're already paying to take the classes, and, maybe along the same lines as what Bruce was mentioning, or having some sort of designated spot for them to park so they don't need to continue to pay for parking when they're already paying tuition. Because I know that, that building is so wonderful for our students in so many ways, right? Cutting down transportation time, gas time, and then if they're having to figure out and pay additional for parking, that's one thing that West Shore, I know, has prided itself on, is not charging students for parking when so many students do. It's an equity issue. And so if there's a way to consider that as we move forward with this conversation as well, that would be great.
See, and I think that considerations like that would stop us from putting in parking meters if we didn't have the ability to make exceptions. So, whatever system we choose.
Or whether it's a free lot, right? I
Right.
mean, just an option for students to be able to park someplace close by for free.
Since I've been on this board, there has been discussions about parking, Lisa has probably been on forever, but even looking at what other areas we can use to possibly purchase for parking for downtown. And I know at one time when the sign company, had moved, we thought one of those lots would have been good, but I think that's all taken up with that housing thing now. But, I do agree, students, maybe some of our seniors, we're gonna want to have some free area, encourage employees to move off of River Street, and then, see if we can make some revenue by others that, we are a tourist community.
Do you have data on this?
Definitely.
Has MSU done any studies on transportation parking downtown?
Pardon?
I'm not familiar with the history. Has anybody studied this?
Oh, yeah,
Do we have
there's
a
all
num-
kinds of people.
Do
all
we have a
kinds of-
number on the visitor parking spaces we need?
I don't know that. I can tell you this. My experience is that Manistee does not have a shortage of parking downtown. And almost any day of the week, almost any time, you can find a place to park on River Street. There's a few times, where there's something special going on when it could get tight, but in general, there's plenty of parking. It's just that the way the parking is distributed,
Right. The thing that I think we should be considering is we want there to be a shortage of parking, and we want there to be growth.
Exactly.
Right? We want the growth, all of, throughout the DDA, but we also want growth on the side streets that aren't part of the DDA. Once that happens, the parking lots will not be the right economic use for that land. So I come back to the question, how many parking spaces do we need? How many parking spaces do we need for Sleigh Bell Festival? And let's start making long-term plans for how we're going to accommodate those needs in a way that captures revenue, for the further development of downtown, satisfies residents, But if we start planning for that, the first thing that we need is kind of a number.
Well,
What are we talking about?
When we had the restaurant down here, oh gosh, it seemed seems to me, I can't remember what the group was, but there was a restaurant was different, but for most businesses, I don't know why, but there was like 3 parking spots per business. It's kind of what was, I can remember them discussing when we were down, when we owned the restaurant. So 3 parking spots per business.
I'll send a note out to the Michigan Downtown Association. I wonder if there's a metric that is standard and that we can at least work backwards from.
Is there an MSU group in the business school or the Michigan Business School that would be willing to take this on as a class project? Say, what do we need and what's the growth projection?
We can ask that, but also to our association. And this is, like Lee has said, this has been researched and researched and researched.
There's a lot of information that's available on that, but one of the most controversial things is how many parking places do you need? And there's all kinds of ways to discover that and all kinds of schemes that people have these days, including things like being able to automatically raise and lower parking rates in a particular area depending on what the particular load is by time of day and things like that. Most of the things that say that you need 3 parking places per something or other are fictional. People just make those numbers up and say you need 2 parking places for every apartment. Well, do you? Or do you need 3 or do you need 4? People just make up a number. But there are engineers who work on this. There are companies who spend a lot of time looking at these kinds of things. There are cities that have implemented different types of programs. To the extent that it take a city like London, it's pretty hard to drive a car downtown at all. And I think that they're approaching that right now in New York City, that you probably will not be able to drive your car downtown in New York City at some point in the near future. So it's an issue. And the other thing is that if you look at long-term projections, they will tell you that people probably will be driving less. And there will be all kinds of things like Uber and automatic shuttles and, on-call electronic driverless vehicles and things like that, so that the amount of parking that is needed is going to be very fluid. And it's going to depend an awful lot on, what type of a neighborhood you're talking about, whether it's office buildings or it's retail or it's, whatever. But there's a lot of things. I don't know whether any of you have looked at some of the videos that I put on the Greater River Street area Google group, but if you take a look at those, you can get some idea of the issue and what some of the solutions are.
Is that what the name is, the Greater River Street Google?
River Street Business Owners is the group. I can also look for those videos and forward those out to the board if you would like.
Yeah, as we look at this and discuss this, let's keep it in our radar, right? Put it under maybe old business to keep talking about because, like Lee is stating, again, we have to look at the fact that there are a lot more people who do not drive. So they're going to want to live close to downtown so they can walk around. We also have seniors, that this is a retirement community. We get more and more seniors coming in. Now we're going to have a hotel sitting at the end of River Street. There's just a lot that's coming, and I can just see the congestion and the issues coming all together so that we have to be planful and look ahead. What would the traffic pattern be like? What would it be like to have, parking spots? Do we have enough parking? We have parking that's taken up by, it's city parking lot, but, when I come by, 10, 11 o'clock at night, there's a lot of people parked there. Is that accessible over there? Just lots and lots and lots.
Could I, one step beyond that, One step beyond that problem is, I got this book on streetscape design. It's got a bunch of European cities, and every single one of them treats their streets like public space. And when you think about it that way, our public space right now is devoted to cars, moving cars around. If we find places to put the cars, if we have ways of reducing the number of cars, which is not that far into the future, of automated vehicles and Uber and all of those other solutions are not that far away. What do we want it to look like? I want to be able to walk right down the middle of River Street and sit down under a tree. Okay? What does that future look like? How many steps does it take us to get there? And if we see that, we can be planning for it. Our 30-year plan has that as the end of the picture.
Now you're describing Charleston, South Carolina.
There you go. Let's get there.
And for our DDA at the last place I worked, we did shut down, kind of stretch of it for a social district event every twice a month. And they had the busiest days they could ever for the 4 events, so.
Yeah.
Definitely does bring more people down, and there's a lot of activity.
We have an asset here that other people don't have. It's one of the coolest parts of the, of Western Michigan. I would be able to sit in it. I think other people would want to be able to sit in it. That's a huge asset. The business owners need people to be sitting out in front on River Street, listening to music and going and buying stuff.
But I will say it was a very big battle about, because people thought they need the cars down the street, they need the cars, and it was debated at council, it was debated, after living businesses too, so. But the end result was, it was much better for the businesses, at least those days.
And we have to address those problems as part of,
I'm thinking that it was Scottville that might have changed, they had a big issue, like they have the angle parking, so they changed all their parking so that you had better traffic flow. So this is a big issue. It's not just putting up a meter. It is about, what would the traffic flow be like, how, all this stuff. And so I think it's going to be important that we keep it on our radar and we continue to talk about it. Ideas would be great. Research from our association will be great. And then look at how it fits into the MCU proposal. And then we got a bond discussion coming up. So, all right. Any more questions, comments? Thank you very much. Good information. Thank you, Lee.
Economic development, I just have some quick points that Mark put together for me. The Gateway is continuing, there's still calls twice a month on that. They're working towards the brownfield remediation, demolition, construction screens are being created for that area. And then the Eagle grant and loan work continues on with the brownfield plans. So you should hopefully be seeing and hearing more moving forward. For condos, as City Manager Campbell had mentioned, they're working to convert a permanent easement to a different property. So that's in process. And they're looking to swap out long-term protection with the acreage there to 9th Street Boat Launch, so in Maxwell Town. Facade demolition occurred. The next step has to be for the plans to go to the Historic District Commission for review and approval. So that's where Percanos is at. I know he has also had some, like any other restaurant challenges this year, so that might slow the progress for us moving forward on the opening day. So we'll keep you posted as we hear more on that. The old Amor site, that the housing project is dead. That's the best word I have today. But we are talking with several other developers on that property. So we'll see. And it is trying to be used for housing with the walkability to downtown and things like that. It would be a good site.
It was a mixed use, wasn't it, or is it
It was a senior housing project, the first go around. So that old Northern Hotel has sold. So at the end of Washington Street. So we've been working with the developer, and that closed last week, I believe, last Thursday or Friday. So that is looking for a mixed-use building as well. So residential, top floor, maybe back, and then retail space up front. Hopefully we'll see some progress and some progression there, and we can move some of our business district that way. Food truck development, we're still continuing in talks for, having a permanent food truck court, maybe next summer. And so we're just kind of working with some of the different food truck organizations and players in that. And then there were 2 retention visits held. The Princess of Manistee, so they have been trying to change the names on the boats and things like that. They had a good year. They're returning, they have a 3-year commitment with us here in Manistee, but we're pleased with the results this year. So that's good. We'll just keep encouraging that. I think everybody doing it.
Are they happy?
So far, yes, they were happy with the business. They thought the summer went well. So I think eventually when the Riverwalk Plaza gets done, that will also help their business because it will have that ADA accessible walkway, which would lead right down to that boat slip. I think sometimes the slope that they're at when some of the elderly people go down to the Elks, or they have to go down the stairs to get there to be close to the boat, that could eliminate some of those issues, I think, for them, and make it a little more friendly, or, with that overlook too, people will see it more. So there's lots of great potential there. And then we actually met with Tracy at Downtown Delights. Mark and I both went to see her. We were discussing like their next year plans, summer and winter plans. If you don't know, she has started offering soups and grilled cheese. They have 4 soups a day, plus 10 different grilled cheese sandwiches. So on top of ice cream, they're spreading out a little bit. So I tend to eat there quite a bit. Walking distance. And so, does anybody have any questions on economic development, director report, merchant report, anything else I can answer? Sounds great. Okay. All right, great, thank you.
Old business, again, the city service agreement is under that. We just want to keep that on our radar. Everybody got this checklist, correct? This is an excellent, this is what I'm looking for when it comes to what are you doing out there and, what's been done. This was put together by you, Kelly, right? This is what the volunteers are doing, which is an enormous amount of work. And I would love to see something like this, if we have a contract with somebody, this is what we should be getting, not you owe us $14,000 for this quarter. Again, it's a business model. What am I paying for? And did you really do all this work? Because if I look over here, I see that, there's, the volunteers did that section, and you're charging me for that section. I want to be able to kind of look at those things. Those are the things that make me feel uncomfortable whenever Christina tells me, we're going to pay the ready check. It's those kind of things. It's like, tell me what you did.
I think this is really important, and this was a really important list to discuss today. My image of this has a couple of suggested additions. One is, for a lot of this stuff, you've got before and after pictures, right? So this lines on this thing can be accompanied by, this is what it should look like, not that, right?
The
Individual
expectation.
expectations, what the expectations are, very specifically. The second thing about this is, I think we can provide this to the city as our suggested maintenance standard, the DDA's suggested maintenance standard, however the city wants to execute that. This goes along, I think, this thing goes along with the asset management plan. This is more short-term than that asset management plan, but it defines what things should look like every year.
It is part of it, yeah.
Okay?
So I do appreciate Kelly providing this. I did send that to Spicer as well to take a look at when they're building that.
And then, finally, I think there should be process around this. These walks that we did around the river walk, should be accompanied by this. People from, the DDA and the city and the DPW walking around together and making the marks on this thing, what needs to be done, right? That's at the beginning of the summer, midsummer, spring, whatever we decide, but there should be formal process around this so that there isn't, it's not fair to say to DPW, report on this. And that should be a part of our process of evaluating that. They should be in a position of executing what we say, what we, the city and the citizens say should be here.
And that, I think is important to add to our contract, and even if we do stay, I think we need to addend it so that we have the outcomes and the expectations. And the point that this is what it should look like, I think is a very important point, because as we walked around, there are things that I heard were like, well, yeah, that's okay. And where I was like, absolutely not.
It's like
My expectation of what it should look like is very different from your expectation. And again, they're not landscapers, design specialists, or anything like that. They're public workers, so they get what needs to get done. And we do have a great crew, people who do work at getting things done. But what we are asking for is different. And Kelly's group, the Manistee Crowd group, has brought that level of expectation forward.
And also,
I want to
don't-
comment on that too, that
Yeah.
I was witness to just a little section that Kelly was working feverishly on. And the difference between what it looked like with some power washing versus what was there was incredible. And so my feeling is that we should be finding ways to say yes to things and getting things accomplished instead of finding reasons, why we can't do it. So if there's some reason that you think is legitimate, like, it's gonna leak, something's gonna leak somewhere or whatever, go to the source that could tell you
Right.
yes or no, so we know for sure. And then there's gotta be a way to be able to do that. How do other places who have these older substances or whatever, how are they keeping them clean? So, I mean, my hat's off to your group. Kelly, you have done tremendous work, and just the little time I was down there was like,
I think as a DDA, we need to set our bar, and that way they will know what our expectations are moving forward. Because our bar is very low right now.
See, the other thing that this represents is a whole lot of very hard-won expertise. There's a lot of detail and a lot of expertise in how to maintain this particular asset and different pieces of this asset. And that's really important. There's a thing that I heard happen, which is, well, we can't do this because of the structural problems created by the erosion behind that. And it's going to cost, it has to be on the capital improvement plan to take care of that. Okay, that's true. But what is also true is the current state is unacceptable. So, what is the interim solution that brings it up to an acceptable standard while we wait and gather the money to fix the problem long term? We cannot, hats off to Kelly, we cannot tolerate things while we wait for them to come up in the capital management plan. There has to be an interim solution that satisfies our, you know, that meets the standards. And that's what, you know, we need to draw expertise into that, you know, landscape architects, you know, more engineering to find those medium-term, short-term solutions to making sure that our stuff works and looks good while we wait to do long-term fixes.
Well, I want to go back to what Barry brought up way in the beginning, was that collaboration, getting closer and closer. And I think that within the city council, within the DDA, within the DPW, we're trying very hard. You know, bringing the former manager and now, you know, Bill's here as the manager, you know, being able to be at these meetings and have these conversations is leaps and bounds from what even I remember starting at. And so I think that this collaborative piece, I see us as kind of a conduit in some ways for our citizens and what they want for our DDA and to the city council and all that it holds. Because I heard very clearly from Mr. Bradford that you have this management plan or this maintenance plan, and then you know, here's all the things that have to be taken care of, and we're going to take all the money and just put it in this one project. And it's like, wait a minute, you know, why? To me, it's like these things are still eroding, you know. It's just a constant, like, we wait till it's a shambles before we jump in. And I just really want to step back at that and say, let's get good preventative-wise so that we don't have to spend $25 million here, or we don't have to spend $20 million there. Which means we're going to have to advocate all the time for the DDA or our downtown district to be always part of the pie. You know, pushing it off to the side or not addressing it just is going to make it now, we're talking millions, you know, to get it up to snuff. And so I just want to say that I'm kind of a person that, you know, keep on and keep it good. Don't wait till it's in shambles and, you know, now it's going to cost us double because everything's going up. So.
I also want to say that money is always an issue. And so we should be embracing any volunteer that comes forward.
Oh, yes.
And Manistee Proud had resistance the whole time, and I still don't understand it. There were, you know, phone calls that weren't returned, and, you know, they told us we had to buy our own supplies, and the list goes on and on. It shouldn't be that way. We should be embracing and empowering and patting our volunteers on the back, not filing grievances, and that's what happened to Manistee Proud. It's not right.
No, and we do appreciate, and again, they have brought this issue to a level where it's like everybody sees it, and citizens that I talk to are just over the moon about the work that's being done. But these are our citizens who have persevered against negativity and or pushback, even a grievance. You know, I get it, I understand it. That was part of our conversation with this whole contract. You know, we are contracting with an organization that has a union, that has, you know, these are people's jobs. I get all that. I get it.
But it's in their contract.
I get it.
It's in their contract that they do not file a grievance against a volunteer for things that they're working on, but they're not working on themselves. So it's already in the contract.
Yeah, and we will have new eyes on this type of stuff to hopefully pull things further together in that collaborative effort and embrace people who want to help out and be invested in our community. We should, I mean, a person picks up a room and wants to be invested in the well-being or the look of our community, we should be applauding them.
And the whole reason it was started was because we wanted to assist the city.
Yeah.
We wanted the city to tell us what to do and show us how to do it.
I think we
Didn't
need a
have that.
volunteer coordinator.
Well, yeah, I used to do that years and years and years ago. You know, a volunteer coordination is a great thing, but trying to figure out where that goes and how to, you know,
I mean, you know, even a passive one to say, this is this is the number that you call if you want to volunteer, and then having the response be positive on the other end, and then negotiate whatever it is that needs to be negotiated in the background. Just having that person, I think, would be a step forward.
And I know we're looking, and it's not called the Blight Committee, but Neighborhood Restoration Committee, and looking at that, do a national yearly day of service and maintaining a list of volunteers, and also having a member of the service organization. So it's still in the draft stage, but I think that's going to be a good vehicle for that, so we can pull people in. But I think everyone appreciates all the work that Kelly's done. It sounds like there were some issues with boundaries and with things like the leaching and with the benches, but I think just kind of maintaining, knowing what the boundaries are, being supportive when people do this work, because it very, very much is appreciated. And I think raising that level, now we're at the situation where we have to figure out, how is this done? Is it going to be contracted out? Can DPW assist with some of these, or what can they do? So those are the things we're going to have to work on. But I think probably, my first thought was it's probably going to be a landscape that has to help, and it's going to have to be contracted, but just a thought, because that is a ton of work, and I don't know if every year you could do something like that, and it's not kind of fair to you, but it is very much appreciated.
I do want to say that the city workers have been awesome to us. They anything we needed, they at the very end, they were willing.
So we can move forward from this,
Yeah.
and have a positive, work together, be partners, and I appreciate all the work you've done.
I did want to let you know too, there's the Manistee County Human Service Council, which is, all of your service agencies are there, and there are numerous volunteers, so that's another coordinated group.
What's the group called, I'm sorry?
They call it HSCB, it's the Human Service Council Board. I'm the chair. I can send you a name. Just so you know what, it's all your service boards, and, Sheriff's Department, everybody's out there, so, like 100 members. Okay, great, thank you, it sounds good, I'm excited. I think you're gonna bring a lot of knowledge and some cohesiveness to our group. Thank you.
Excited to be here, thank you.
Great. Always my favorite subject, the downtown bathroom service cleaning.
Well, we had that card last month that we kind of brought up with a consumer that came in and wasn't happy with the bathroom status. I didn't think we had closed that issue yet. We really hadn't made any recommendations or any plan. I didn't know if the board might want to readdress that, or if that's something moving forward, what do we need to do? I know that during Hops and Props, Kyle actually had expressed that there was a residential toilet, not a commercial toilet in the marina bathroom, and that the no soap, and then there was countertop was pulling away from the backsplash, and so there's some maintenance work, it sounds like, in both bathrooms. I know in the women's, I did not go into the men's, so I did not see those things, but in the women's there was no soap either during the event when that was held.
Plus I wanted better doors. Yeah, doors still have that place.
So we hadn't maybe finished that discussion. I don't know if that's part of something, I didn't know if that, where does that fall? Again, I don't know whose role that is. Is it the cities to take care of? Is it the DDA's? Is that something we refurbish? So I wanted
I know there's issues with vandals in there, I guess I don't know much about it.
Yeah. Maybe we can just keep it in own business and you can check that out. I had suggested too, it's like at a certain time we need to lock them, which they were going to do because there were.
I think they have automatic locks.
Okay, because there were vandals.
Regarding the automatic locks, they were saying that people were being left inside.
They would go in before they lock. They could
Right.
still exit.
Right. But because they're in there,
They might be staying there the night. I mean, it could be a vandal, it's still in there. Is that
Right.
what you're saying?
should they be manually locked rather than automatically locked?
Well, I think the other step is to let them be, automatically locked, but then after they're locked, somebody's got to make rounds and make sure that they're empty.
Could the cleaning take place then? At the end of the day, and then they just lock it behind them? So-
To me, that would be a good way to take care of it at the end when, you lock them up and you clean them. That again would be back to, we don't have a 3 to 11 shift, I don't think, or anything like
I
that.
think every city has issues with checking bathrooms every night.
Yeah, but
Something to think about.
we'll bring it back and keep chatting about it.
Yeah, I just thought it was something that now that we're through tourist season this year, we do, talking in the bond or talking on, general fund, if that's something that we wanted to address in the downtown bathrooms, maybe refurbishment, maybe painting, to make them look fresher, cleaner. But I just want to keep it on our radar, and that's why I did it.
And then the bond priorities, MSU study projects.
Just on in
Just keep it-
general,
Yeah, just keeping it on there so we don't lose track of this. Keep our minds working.
City Manager Gamble and I did have a discussion regarding streetscape. He had a couple ideas of.
And since we've talked, it sounds like we want to move forward faster than, I don't know if it was going to be a formal RFP, but we could get proposals from engineering firms. Sounds like Spice is spread pretty thin right now, so maybe just look at others. So I guess it depends on the timing, but we could look at, I think, seeing how you want to address that. So I think we can talk some more about that.
Great.
It's, Ed Bradford sent out, I guess there needs to be an easement for that property over by the college for that area. I think there's a plaza that handicap ramp, so that's something that needs to move forward as an easement to allow that to happen first.
So we have to provide an easement.
It sounds like that has to be for us to allow that to happen, so I think Ed was thinking that timing with that, I mean, it's a streetscape and that are coupled together. We didn't know how quickly we can have that easement created and granted, but
I guess I'd have to know, is it off of the parking lot here?
Yes,
Okay.
so, the majority of the Riverwalk Plaza is on city property. However, in order to use bond funding, we'll need an easement so the city has 100% access to the full walkway, the observation deck, and then that, they already have the boardwalk area thing type. So it's more the parking lot area, I believe that.
Which is West Shores.
Yes.
And so they have to supply the easement so that we can get this, so that becomes an access to the city.
I think they'll have to work together, yes.
Yeah.
And then we'll need final construction plans and costs on the Riverwalk Plaza, which I am going to work with the college to get those over to the city. And then I think then they'll have those discussions and figure out how to move forward on an easement. In order for us to use bond funding, because you can't fund something that's not public.
Right. So the easement would have to come first so that there's accessibility to the city property.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And who, mechanically, who is it who is asking for the easement?
The city
Yeah.
needs the easement so we can put it on our bond,
So it's,
include it in our bond.
so it's on your to-do list. Okay.
The,
And we need to just ask, an old business, ask about this to me.
Right. In your, sounds like you're coordinating all this.
yes, Spicer's been on it, the lawyer's been on it.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's been included, so there's just a couple more steps that I need to take. Sorry, Andy, I keep looking at you as a college person, but there's a couple more steps that we need to take with the college, and I'll coordinate some more emails today. So, yep, we're moving forward to make sure that that could be a bonded project for the.
The last thing that Kyle had asked about, just asked if we could bring it up, and I don't, I'll ask you if you can check in, since Mr. McCool is not here. There's some orange cones sitting on the edge of Green Bush that have been there probably all year. I'm not really sure, well, not all year, all summer. Yeah, so are those like, I think there's a bit of a pothole right there on the sidewalk that they might be protecting from. I'm not really sure, but they've kind of been there for a long time. Kyle kind of wondered, is there a plan? I think it should stay there forever.
Put some gold patch in that.
Yeah.
I did
You
send a note.
can show me where exactly, you can show me exactly after.
Yeah, it's right across from
I
take a look.
I
In
did
front
send
of,
Jeff an email
in
on it,
front
but I
of
didn't
you
get a
to you
response.
or? Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And again, it's like, after you wrote that, I was like, oh yeah, that's happening. You just get so used to seeing something. Is there anything else that other board members would like to bring up? All right, lots to think about.
One more thing that we should discuss is the revolving loan fund, and we can have a further discussion next month. So we do have one outstanding business. We have two revolving loans right now. One is RLB Boutique. I believe that used to be the Manistee Bridal Company, and they have an outstanding balance to the DDA of $3,164.01.
She's gone, isn't she?
I believe so. So I don't know, I haven't seen any collection procedures, if the DDA wants to write off these dollars, or how this has happened in the past, so I wanted to ask that. And then J. Catlin and Company is our other one. They have a current balance of $32,79.74. She has asked to resume payments. I know the DDA had given her a 6-month grace period due to COVID. And so we'll be getting statements and starting back up working with her. So new on our radar, but the team wanted the board to think about, is this something that is a good use of team time? There used to be apparently a loan committee that would take in the applications. Barry probably knows more about this, and then distribute that, but this is solely through the DDA. And this is not through a bank. So this is where we have that revolving loan fund. As a team, we definitely are not loan officers, nor are we collection agents. And so just wanted to see what the thoughts
We
were.
don't have a good structure on that either.
Yes.
Yeah,
It-
you know.
It's 1.5% below prime is the fixed rate. I believe there's $21,600 in that fund.
Available.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would be, the team would suggest, the chamber team would suggest it going into facade grants, to tell you the truth, to help businesses redo their fronts and
When you say go into, are you saying, get rid of those dollars and turn them into grants?
it was a discussion,
Okay,
yes.
because that was a USDA grant, so I think those funds are obligated for that purpose.
And if we didn't use them for that, Barry, is that something that you return those funds?
I don't know, you should
Okay.
dig out the USDA grant that originally granted those funds.
Do you know when that started, Barry?
Before my time, so it's at least more than 15 years ago. Lee might know. And the other thing, the RLB Boutique, that's Rachel, former board chair. That's the R in RLB. That is not Manistee Bridal.
Thank you. That was not clear at all. They did not have that paperwork. Okay. And so was that Moving Spirits?
Yes, I would
Okay.
think so. I think it was when she did her clothing in addition to the wine. That's what RLB Boutique was.
So, yeah, now that we know, let's send a letter. Okay, strong.
Sorry. Okay, and that was all on the, that I had. Just
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Yes, Lee?
Item 12, public comment.
Oh, there's a back page, yes. Are there any public comments?
Yeah, I'm not satisfied with the resolution of that parking situation. I think that something more positive should be done, and I would suggest that the DDA assign Christina the task of putting together a group of people who can discuss this. We have some local assets here. We have the Spicer group that has engineers that have some knowledge of this kind of thing. We have the DPW. We have landscape architects. We have business people. I think we could put together a group and find out, where we go to assemble the information that we need. I suspect that there's probably companies that could come out and say, look at our downtown and say, I think you could make $200,000 a year if you charge this much for parking. You know, there are people that know these kinds of things, and we just need to find a way that we can get to them and do something concrete, rather than just say, we're gonna keep this on our radar. But I'm not sure that that's enough.
Yeah, I put it over to old business because once Kyle gets back to our chair, I'd like us to kind of hammer it out on where we go. Do we start with a community forum for information? Do we set the group first? You know, I'd like to have steps, you know, better thought out and what we're moving towards. So it's going to be an old business, but it'll be reviewed at next meeting for more formality, is kind of what my thought is.
We need to figure out what the DDA's role is relative to where this should be with council, what council wants us to do.
Well, I think we're at least facilitators or the conduit. Again, back to that, you know, it's like, I think this is an issue that has to be addressed. And we have to really collaborate with, you know, city council, DPW, city offices, you know, all of this stuff is gonna need to be pulled together. But that's why I wanna just wait till next month when Kyle's back, so that we have, you know, a clear set path.
That's good, I just want to see it on a high priority,
Yeah.
I think it's something. And the other thing is that the DDA's really got a lot more power than they sometimes exercise, because they can contract and build things and buy things and pay people and have employees and all kinds of things like that. So I don't think that we're going to get any leadership from the city council on this. Sorry about that, but I think that that's probably true. So I think the DDA and the merchants have to be the ones who lead on this project. One other thing, is I was under the impression that Zach was going to come give a report on the HDC, and he's not here. So I'd just like to say a couple things about the Historic District Commission, as I'm the chair of the Historic District Commission right now. We're anxious for projects. The Hotel Northern is so exciting. My gosh, you know, that thing's been sitting there and people have just been salivating over that, saying, you know, wow, can't we do something? The Historic District Commission wants projects, and there are things that we can do. We're anxious to see what Turkana wants to do. You know, that's good to find something that's compatible with the west downtown. We are working towards methods of enforcing things that the Historic District Commission does. Specifically, this has been an issue in terms of projects that have been going on for 20 years. And I think you all know what projects those are. Those finally went to Blight, and there was a court case on it. And the court case, the judgment was, if I understand this correctly, that the old Rosemary building and the Larson Insurance building right over there need to have the exteriors finished by May of next year. So that's a positive thing. Because before this, the Historic District Commission couldn't do anything except look at their plans and say, these plans are nice, you know, it fits within the guidelines of the historic district. But there wasn't any way that we could say that this project had to proceed, you know, and we're working towards some things that maybe, you know, there are some things where you can cite a violation of the historic district guidelines, and that could be attached as a lien on a piece of property, and that lien has to be satisfied if they ever want to sell the building or do anything with it. So, you know, there are some ways we're trying to get some teeth in this. We have some good technical support. We've had a couple of meetings with Lisa Rosemerick, who is a local Manistee person, who is a historic architect that currently serves with a forum in New York City. But she also has worked with the city of Ann Arbor and the city of Kalamazoo, and she's very, very knowledgeable of all the historic district guidelines and the kind of tools that can be used. And she's been very helpful in terms of helping us in terms of what we can do. And other than that, I guess I'm just here if you have any questions about anything. I mean, the commission wants to see development because the best way to preserve historic assets is to make them usable. You know, if they're not usable and they're not economically sound, they're going to just deteriorate. So we want to see projects, we want to see things move forward.
Great, and thank you for presenting, because I've always asked for somebody to kind of come to the meetings. It's great to hear the clarification on the two projects that have been for 20-some years, because, you know, I wasn't sure when I got on this board where that landed. Well, how did this continue to be an issue? But it's great to hear that what your role was, not that you were approving their going on for years and years, you were approving their design.
Yeah, the design is fine.
Yeah.
You know, there's no problem with the design, it's the execution of it that's been
Yeah.
lacking. That's a problem. You know, I mean, we've got a nice capitalist system here, and we have private ownership of property, and there's very limited things sometimes that government can do to encourage people to do what they should do, let me put it that way.
Yeah, and we just want them to take pride. I mean, take pride in ownership and in representation of your community. I think of that hardware store that was empty, and now the Native American pictures, and you know, they at least put a design in the window. It's beautiful. It's much better than looking at that paper that was hanging there.
We have a problem, I think, that people buy a piece of property in downtown and have big dreams, but they don't have deep pockets. And so this has happened with Hotel Northern, I think, a couple times in the last 20 or 30 years, that people bought it and then found out that they couldn't finance what needed to be done. That's certainly the case with H&K Electric down there, is that lots of great plans, but not the deep pockets to carry those plans out.
Some of these revolving loans, you know, if we could better define them, you know, can be their resource.
Yeah, we encourage people because you still have a facade grant program.
Right.
There are historic tax credits. There are currently bills at the federal level and at the state level to increase the value of historic tax credits. So it can be very helpful to people who are looking at an older building and trying to come up with the wherewithal to do something. This can be complex because, you know, we insist that our government not allow people to just give away things freely, and so people have to jump through all kinds of hoops before they get tax credits or grants or whatever. But it can be done, and it has been done in downtown Manistee too.
Thank you. Great information.
Anything else?
Appreciate it. Oh. I did look at page 2. After public comment, now is any comments from the board. We're done. So now we can adjourn. Thank you, everybody.